Last week we covered up to Ada programming languages. We have seen Ada was a programming language that was developed with the purpose to combining the features all other programming languages had. So it was actually one of the most hectic and most biggest design effort, the largest design effort to combine all the existing programming languages, all the existing programming ideas, programming features into one. So they did do so. Okay, they did combined all the programming languages. Okay, but the problem was that we have seen the design was very competitive and it was large, it was complex and so on. But from the Ada, the reason we are studying Ada because it had a huge contribution that we still use today, such as elaborate exception handling, generic unique concurrency, packages, and so on. Now, next concept is object-oriented programming that you are very familiar with. The term object-oriented programming comes from the difference between a procedural programming languages such as C, okay, and C++. So the difference is instead of whenever we are trying to develop projects that are big, okay, that has huge number of codes, we need to divide the code in a way, okay, so that there appears the similarity pattern between different portion of the code. We need to arrange the codes in a way so that it has the common parts can be reused, and we also can take common features from one part of the code to another part. So to address those issues, it were not common in C programming, so we started with this object oriented concept. So reuse the object or reuse the part of the code. We have function, we used inheritance, okay, we used polymorphism, abstraction, encapsulation, and so on. So the object-oriented programming, which is very popular now, okay, started with the idea of a Smalltalk, a programming language. It was initially developed by a scientist called Alan, and then it was improved and further developed by Adel Goldberg. Okay, the first full implementation of object-oriented programming, though, okay, it was done by Smalltalk, and it was pioneered the graphical user interface that we see and use today. Okay, the graphical user interface is basically the combination of what whenever you turn on the computer, everything that you see is actually graphical user interface. Previously you had to write everything down, there was a text based interface, but now we actually don't use that. So Smalltalk was the first one that was the object-oriented programming language and promoted this object-oriented features. There are many features of object-oriented programming, but one, the main common part is that if I ask you that why object-oriented programming is better, you will say that, sir, we have these features. You will directly go to the features. You will say, sir, we have inheritance, we have polymorphism, we have abstraction, encapsulation, and so on. Now, if I ask you, what does this abstraction, encapsulation, or polymorphism actually mean? Then it takes time to explain. So first of all, if I start with inheritance, I think all of you are familiar with it, that if what we do, we divide the programs into small bit of modules that we call class. Each class has its own feature, its own function. It can decide to share the function. Okay, we have different access modifiers, public, private, protected, depending whether the variable is public or private or protected. Okay, the different variables get to access it. One common example, let's say that in your Facebook, okay, you can set a post to be only me, that is private. You can set the post to be protected, that can your friends can only see it, or you can set your post to public, that everyone can see it. So what we can do in the data, we can actually assign different level of access modifiers, okay, that who can access this data, who can't. Then we comes the concept of polymorphism, that one function, okay, depending on where it is, actually behave differently at different times. Just think about you as a person, you are a student, right? So whenever you in a class, you the same person, okay, whenever you are in a class, you behave as a student. So I can say that whenever you go to class, you call the student function or your student behavior function. Whenever you go to the market, you behave in another way. Whenever you go to with your friends, you behave in another way. So that means you are the same person. Okay, the behavior is yours, but depending on where you are behaving differently at different time. Okay, so if you go to market, you behave in a way. If you go to with your friends, go out with your friends, you behave in a way. If you go to a teacher, you behave in a way. So that's one. I hope you get the idea. So polymorphism also is like this, that same program or same function or same variable, depending on where it is, it will behave in different way. Then comes the encapsulation and abstraction. So I have already talked about it. Just in short, let's talk about Facebook. So in the Facebook, whenever you are exchanging information or sending the message, okay, or whenever you are sharing a post or uploading a video, you don't have to concern with how in the backend everything is being processed. Okay, you just know that if you want to upload this, you just need to click here and the video will be uploaded. If you want to send the message, you have to click here. Okay, how the image is getting sent is up to the Facebook. Okay, so this is we call abstraction. So you are not concerned with all those difficult operations. Okay, and finally we have encapsulation. Encapsulation is kind of the way to protect the data, that Facebook actually protects this information. Okay, that how it actually process the friend request and how it suggests you the friend request, these algorithms are protected. You will not get to see that how this work, how suddenly a random person gets suggested to your as a friend. Okay, how, why you only see certain post in your new Facebook feed. All those are actually abstracted from encapsulated from you. Those are the properties of Facebook. You will not be able to know how those work. Okay, you will only get the output. Think about any product. Okay, whenever you buy a product, you get the product. You don't know how the product is being made. That is encapsulated by the owners. So this is the ideas that we have in object oriented programming, and without those, currently we actually use those, so it seems to be very normal. But if you want to develop a project without these core ideas, okay, then you will see that how difficult it gets. Okay, especially I remember when I was a student of first year, I guess, we had to develop a C project. So then we did not have any idea. In our university we don't get to learn C++. uh, in first year we have to, like, for 1 year we only have to learn C programming. Okay, so is that's a long amount of time just to learn one programming language, and then we have to uh, develop a project. Now what happened is that so it's a 1 year project. It has to be like a big project with a lot of features. So the code that we wrote is actually almost like 2000 lines. Okay, not 2000, like 700 something lines, so almost close to 2000. And it was too difficult to manage it at some point. Like we even if there are some errors, okay, we fix the errors. We are like, please Allah, please, there's no bug. Okay, because it happened like we changed one part of the code, then it caused change in another part. We use different separate function loops and so on. And like there was a statement I remember, like 200 line if else only. So you see the how problematic it gets if you want to develop a huge project with only C programming concepts. You will see that how difficult it gets. Okay, but anyway, thanks, we have C++, we have Java, we don't have to go through all those hassles. Okay, so now we don't even realize that what
Sir,
we're missing.
sir, I have a question.
So I guess now you understand that C++ is actually a very groundbreaking. So small talk, the programming languages, okay, started this. Okay, it is a dynamic type languages because it took many decision on the runtime while execution of the program, like which function to call, how should I behave. Okay, like you'll call the same student function, but depending on which type of object is getting called at, it will behave differently. Okay, so you guys have all done the C++ course, so you have the idea about this dynamically features of C++. So sorry, object-oriented programming. Now, fast forward to 1980. Okay, it was in Bell Labs. Okay, we developed C++, which was developed from C and Simula 67. The facilities for object-oriented programming taken partially from Simula 67. Okay, it provides exception handling. We can handle large and complex languages, and it supports both procedural and object-oriented programming. And it's rapidly grew into popularity because of the ability to develop huge programs. Then we had it had this standard of ANSI. Okay, it was approved in 1997, and it had different user interfaces. We had we did not support multiple inheritance at the first, but then we changed it a little bit. So I think all of you have heard about the .NET in 2002. We'll go to about .NET more in the upcoming slides. So it actually different version. Okay, that is, it's also C++, but it's a managed C++. Okay, they made some corrections to it, or I should not say correction, I will say that they modified or choose some of the features. Okay, so that's why it's called managed C++. Then we have this Objective C that little bit ago I was talking about. Okay, C plus support for object oriented based on Smalltalk. It uses the Smalltalk's method calling syntax, so everything is almost same, but it uses the object oriented concepts, and it used by Apple for system programs. So here we get the features of C programming that we know, that is very fast, that is very light, efficient. At the same time, we actually implement the idea of object oriented programming. Then we have the Delphi. Okay, that is a Pascal plus support for object-oriented programming. So you see, parallelly, when they were developing C++, other programming languages, they tried to i- take the concept in. So Object C was another approach to take the object-oriented concept in C. Then we have the Delphi, that was the approach for taking the object-oriented support for Pascal. Then we have the Go programming languages by Google, okay, which loosely based on C, but also support the features, but it actually don't support all the features of traditional object-oriented programming. So don't get confused with like, sir, is it a object-oriented programming? The answer is no, but it actually tries to change the programs in a way that it actually enables you as a programmer, it enables you to actually work with all the features of object-oriented programming. Now, even all with all those efforts, you don't have to memorize this. Okay, just know the names, that will be all. So even with all these efforts, okay, still C++ programming was not this difficult. Even today, we actually take these programming languages for granted, but it actually took too much hard work to come up to this. The language that we learned, C, C++, Java, they were developed by scientists who we don't even know the name of, who don't get any like recognition. Okay, they have worked so hard to develop these programming languages. Even if you just try to code, just think about it, you are trying to code a programming language and you face so many difficulties. Now just think about, you're trying to develop the programming language. That needs another dimension of hard work and talent and motivation. Okay, now, so even if all these problems, okay, C++ still has some issues, then we had an imperative based object oriented language, that is Java. It was developed at CERN in 1919. So we're talking about 10 years after C++, that was approach was taken. So C and C++ were not actually satisfactory for embedded electronic devices. Okay, so what they did to make sure that not only for this embedded electronic devices, we wanted to make a programming language that is portable as well. Okay, that means one program that will run everywhere. Okay, so as C++ had all the updated features, it had the advantage of C, it had the advantage of object-oriented programming. Okay, so Java was also developed on C++. So it was significantly simplified. Okay, so it does not have like a structure, union, enum, pointer, arithmetic, and so on. Then it only supports only object-oriented programming features. It has references, but we don't use pointer in Java. It includes support for applets, and it has concurrency and so on. And if you learn Java, I think many of you are learning in this semester or have already learned this semester. Okay, before, so you see, using Java, you can actually develop any type of application. That is the most interesting part. Before Python was so popular, okay, Java was actually the language to go. You could do everything, start from a desktop application, Android application, web applets. You can go for a database application, everything. Okay, now after so what actually is changed to in the Java? Okay, so if I just want to compare in short, Java eliminated some of the unsafe features of C++. It had concurrency features, it used library applets, it used graphical user interface, okay, database access. Okay, it had Java virtual machine concept, JVM. Okay, that it was portable, one program could run in different machines by converting to Java bytecode. It has Java just in time compilers that we learned in the chapter 1, that there were three types of compiler. One was like interpreter that interpreted one line at a time. Then there was uh, compiler that interpreted as a whole. Then there's a hybrid compiler that actually combined the advantage of both. Okay, so just-in-time compiler is another example. We use Java for the World Wide Web, www pages, whenever you go to a website. Okay, and we use for other areas increase faster than any other languages, but now we also are adopting for other languages. Okay, but most of the languages that you see, let me go back here. So this is, let's say, the current trend of Java. Okay, but if you look closely here, so this is like Java 5, Java 6. Okay, and this is where the Java programming languages, and it went to C sharp. So from the Java, if you learn Java, you can also be very good at C sharp because the concepts are very same. Okay, just a little bit differences on the how the applications are based, but the basic idea is very same. And then obviously the common concept is here, as we have learned in the first class, that if you start with C, everything becomes actually easier because the ideas are just same with advanced features, even PHP as well. Anyway, let's go back to our content. So then we have our last concepts of this chapter, that yes, we have learned about Java, we have learned about I think, just a minute, let me check again. Yes, so we covered this Fortran programming languages, then we covered Algol, we covered our Simula 67, we talked about, we didn't cover this one. This is, I think it's not needed because it's almost similar to Pascal. There's not much difference. Then we talked about Ada, that is a programming language that tried to combine all the features of other programming languages. Then we seen COBOL, another type of programming languages that was tried to develop in a way so that common people who are not technical people, they can use the programming language. Then we have Smalltalk. We talked about Perl, a powerful text processing programming language. Then we had now we'll talk about this part, JavaScript, PHP. Okay, and we uh, common list, we talked about this, C++. We didn't talk about Python, but I think we're learning Python, so that will cover it. Yeah, so we'll not go, we talked about scheme. I will not cover icon. This is totally not related to this because we don't use it anymore anywhere. So that's not important for our discussion. Okay, let's go there. So the next is that we will, the scripting languages for web. Now, many of you have heard that web development, many of you are already doing web development, okay, or many of you are interested in web development. And so whenever we talk about web development, this idea is very straightforward, that whenever you are trying to develop a website, you have two parts, okay, three actually, but let's focus on the first two. One is backend, another is front end. Front end means that whenever you go to a website, what you see, okay, so let's say you're logging to Facebook, the user interface that you have, okay, the message option that you have, so every interfaces that are part of the front end. How the information are getting processed, that is actually part of the backend. Now here we talk about this two type of scripting languages, one that works with the front end, back end, and then there is a Python, okay, that actually can do almost both work, and it also provides the common platform. So anyway, first one, that is JavaScript. Okay, so JavaScript, what you know already about HTML, so I'm going to the JavaScript. JavaScript is a joint venture of Netscape and Sun Microsystem. They combined together to develop this language. It used in web programming client side, okay, to create dynamic HTML documents, and it is related to Java only through the similar syntax. So this is a question that I actually get many times, that sir, is Java and JavaScript same? Okay, the answer is no. Okay, the applications, even though the name is similar, because they are related, as you can see, related to Java through similar syntaxes. So yes, if you learn Java, you'll have a good idea about the JavaScript because they have similar concepts and system, but the application is totally different. Okay, JavaScript we only use for client side programming. So in the client side, whenever you log in, whenever you see a certain text or certain messages, okay, that's your JavaScript file, and it will be depending on the client, it will differ from person to person. Okay, then we you know about PHP that we used in a web application server side. PHP, using PHP, you can also develop very simple websites. Even I should not say simple, actually, you can develop good websites as well. Okay, there's no limitation, because right now if you learn a framework, let's say that you want to learn web development, and you can start with raw PHP. That means you will not use any framework, you will just write the PHP code. Okay, or you can use a framework. You can go with, let's say, Laravel. Okay, Laravel is very popular in Bangladesh especially. So there they will actually provide you with a lot of libraries to work with, so you don't have to write the raw PHP code. That means you don't have to write every line of the code. You can just import different libraries to make your life much easier. Okay, so most of the cases people start with Laravel directly, but I suggest them that first just see how the raw PHP work. Develop a simple login page or simple CMS, content management software, using a raw PHP, then jump to the Laravel. In that case, you will just have the idea more clear. But again, you can start with Laravel as well. Both are actually fine. Okay, and you will see it's actually very easy. Okay, in the YouTube, I'm not sure like right now, but uh, even like last 4 or 5 years, there were so many YouTube videos where they will walk you through step by step how to develop a web application. So if you are a student who are interested in web development, you can just open one of those video, just follow the instruction for 1 2 hour, let's say just 3 4 hour, then you'll have a complete websites. So that's much easy it is. Okay, and while we're on the topic, some of you asked me about like WordPress is actually a good option, but this is actually for people who are not technical. As a technical CS engineer, you should start with PHP, JavaScript, HTML, and so on. Okay, you should not first try WordPress. But if you're in a hurry for some reason, okay, you can practice WordPress. Okay, like if you need to develop a website within 2 days and you don't have the time to learn development and then develop it, so then you can go for WordPress. But as a technical person, okay, you should try to learn on PHP. It will help you in your career as well. Anyway, we're going to another topic now. Third one, Python. So we have talked about Python a lot, so I will skip this a little bit. Just a main feature is uh, in Python, we use supports a CGI, common gateway interface. What it does, okay, this is actually a concept from networking course. So whenever you go to a website, we have three types of documents. We have active document, we have dynamic documents, and we have a static document. What is a static document? So it doesn't matter who go to the page, they will always see same page. That is a static. What is dynamic? That depends on who goes to the page, they will see different documents, right? And then what is the active document? So what happens, the current websites that we have is actually very advanced. And in this advanced websites, it's not only about logging in and seeing some information. There are a lot of things you can do now. Okay, and one of them is, let's say, you can play games. Okay, you can watch video together. Okay, in the I'm not sure Facebook, what else you can do. Oh, now third, we have a marketplace as well in the Facebook. So you see, it's getting actually the functionalities of any websites are getting more and more and more. Okay, now this CGI, common gateway interface, is basically a way that it provides the programmer, okay, to actually create a common set of rules. So we can see CGI is a set of rules that will tell you that if you want to do this, okay, you need to use this certain functions, you need to use this certain type of program, you need to have this certain database commands, and so on. So anyway, we'll go to those. We don't need those how CGI work because we're not developing any website, but this is just, remember, this is a set of rules, okay, that defines different types of database operation, programming languages, and so on. So here's an example of JavaScript code. You can go through it. So this is almost similar to HTML, right? We have a doc type HTML, then you have the script where we write the function of what need to be done. Then you have the body header. This is my web page, and so on. Then this is another PHP example. We also again have the HTML. We have the head. Then we have the PHP tag here. We then write this content was generated. So echo basically the similar to printf. So basically whenever you write echo, it will show you a line in the screen. And you know that P means paragraph. So go through this. These are very simple. Here, so the concept that we're talking about, the client side environment and the server side environment. So we don't have much to discuss here because all of you are familiar with this. The client side means that whenever we we go to a website, we are the client, and whenever we request information, let's say you're going to YouTube. So whenever you go to the YouTube a YouTube website and you request a video, you are the client. Okay, so what it does, your computer or your client side environment, okay, that runs a script that takes information from you, it processes the information, okay, and send a request to the web server. The web server in return, that is called server side, okay, runs this script or runs the code that you requested, okay, and then returns the result. Another common example is, let's say, Facebook. Whenever you log into the Facebook, given your username and your password, okay, the client side environment compile these two and send it to the Facebook server. Facebook compares your password and username. If they're correct, okay, then he send you a specific Facebook feed for you. So if I am logging to my Facebook account and you are logging to your Facebook account, okay, both of us will have a different Facebook feed, depending on our friends, depending on what our friends post and so on, the pages I like. So all these things had to be handled by the server side environment, which actually process the client request and see and determines that what information need to be processed. So this is the server side task. And finally, we are end of the chapter. So I think here, yes, we just have some examples. So this is C sharp, as I was talking about. So from the Java programming languages, we actually, it was based on not only Java, but C++ and Delphi as well. So what we did, okay, we needed a programming language that was actually component based so that we could actually develop software faster. Okay, so by keeping that idea in mind, that to develop application or software development much faster, they introduced the idea of .NET platform. Okay, and in the .NET platform, we have all the .NET languages such as C sharp, Visual Basic, .NET Managed C++, J sharp .NET, Common JavaScript .NET, and so on. So we use the common type system, that is CTS, and we can develop any applications much faster. And it's actually good. I will not say very popular, but it's popular. Okay, because the overall system development lifecycle is actually gets much easier to manage. So here's some examples of the markup languages such as XHTML, XML, Java Server Pages, JSP, JSONs. So just go through them. These are just programming examples. You don't need to memorize or you don't have to write them into the exam. This is just for an example given. That's it. So we end of the chapter. So in this chapter, we just talked about different programming languages. We tried to give you an idea that how the programming languages changed over time. And the main question that I tried to answer, I think you will help your juniors to learn this as well, that why we need to learn C programming languages very well, or why we actually start with this programming language C, then we go to C++, and in the meantime, we learn Visual Basic, .NET, Java, and C Sharp. Why not, like many other places, why not just start from the Python? Because it's better if you start with simple, it then you will have the easier way to grasp the overall knowledge. And if you want to start with PHP, okay, JavaScript, all these are actually web development related programming languages, and the difference between front end, back end. So most of you already know this informations. Okay, just practice one or two times. Okay, try to explain the whole chart to yourself or your friends, and you'll see that this chapter, even though it seems like a lot difficult, like there are so many informations, okay, but it's actually not that. Once you try to explain this whole thing to someone one or two times, you will see that you don't have to memorize that much. Okay, but for the first time exam, you do need to memorize. Okay, because it's only 3 days away.